Anime Recap here. Today I'm going to explain a romance slice of life anime called Taisho Otome Fairy Tale. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. Shima Tamahiko is a pessimistic 17-year-old. He hails from a well-to-do family, with a father who stopped wanting anything to do with him, ever since he got into an accident that killed his mother. The accident also robbed him the use of his right hand. His dad has rejected him since then, saying that a good-for-nothing boy like him has no place in the Shima family. Tamahiko was banished. He didn't just lose his mother, he lost everything too. He's sent to their villa in the mountains of Chiba, crushing his already broken soul. Now, Tamahiko is convinced that he is a nuisance just by being alive. One snowy night, someone arrives at the villa. Tamahiko wonders who could it be. When he opens the door, he is greeted by a girl. The girl introduces herself as Tachibana Yuzuki, and she's there to become his bride. As he leads the girl inside the house, he remembers his dad saying that he'll buy him a bride or something since no one in the family can take care of him. He guesses that she was probably sold to him to cover a debt. Seeing that Yuzuki is dressed lightly, he puts his cloak over her so she won't catch a cold. Despite this unsavory arrangement, she's somehow touched by the gesture. Tamahiko then takes her to an unoccupied room, saying that she may use it as she likes. With that, he leaves. The following day, Tamahiko starts his day without getting a wink of sleep. Yuzuki, on the other hand, is already up and running. She is full of energy, cleaning the floor and helping him wash his face. She notices that he has dark circles and asks him whether he has trouble sleeping. He lies, telling her it's no concern of hers. His days have grown different with Yuzuki around. He finds her presence irritating and he no longer has the time to get lost in his thoughts. One time while he's in the bath, she comes in and insists on washing his back. He's reluctant at first, but she insists and in the end has her way. He thinks that given her mannerism and the way she speaks, she must have been a pampered princess type, an innocent girl who knows little of the world, according to him. He tells her that she probably doesn't have a single worry to speak of. She responds that it's awful of him to assume that, and that she has two things to worry about. To her, these two things are big worries. She unties her braids and reveals to him that she has a lot of hair and is so wavy. This is one of her big worries. For the first time in a long while, Tamahiko laughs. Who would have thought that she was apprehensive about such things? That night, while winding down, Yuzuki recalls her final days at the girls' school. She's been taking care of her friends, who told her that she'll be a great wife one day. That's when she revealed that since her parents could no longer pay their debt, she's getting married off to the lender's son to look after him. For this reason, she must quit school and dedicate her time to taking care of her husband. Tamahiko celebrates the New Year's by being secluded and alone in his room, with nothing but his melancholy to keep him company. Since he can't sleep, he walks around the house and comes to the living room. Yuzuki notices that he is up and decides to accompany him. Though he still thinks of her as a bother, he lets her do as she pleases. While sitting by the fire, he asks her, "Don't you hate it? Being chased deep into the mountains here and given as a bride to a man like me?" She is stunned to hear this. With this frustration and self-loathing mounting, he goes on, saying of course she hates living with a pessimist recluse like him with no future. "Come now, don't hold back. Tell me how you really feel." In the face of Tamahiko's aggression, Yuzuki calmly hands him some milk that she warmed up. The boy mellows down and drinks the milk, while she mentions that she'd often stay up late drinking milk back in her dorm. She'd also sing songs with her friends, so she decides to sing a song for him. He recognizes this as the same song his late mother used to sing to his younger sister. Tamahiko admits that he no longer thinks of going back to school, especially with all the hardships he'd encounter with his right hand. He's fed up with being unneeded, fed up with being hurt. Every night he thinks, "I don't want to wake up." But the more he thinks about it, the less he can sleep. Yuzuki stands up and gives him a pat on the head and shoulder, comforting him. He asks why she's so kind to him, and she answers that when his father bought her for 10,000 yen, she said she wasn't afraid to be the wife of a man she had never met. But that was a lie. The first time she met him, he was so kind to her and had such integrity. This convinced Yuzuki Tamahiko will learn to cherish her. This is why she sought to be kind to him, to adore him. Tamahiko's caught off guard by her answer. She asks that they sleep together and greet the first morning of the new year together, making him grow flustered as he's never slept with someone before. He panics and remembers having a magazine about it tucked away in his room. He quickly scans its pages, looking for any advice on dirty deed-doing. Yuzuki finally enters his room, and to his surprise, she brought a futon of her own. It turns out she literally meant to sleep together, as in sleeping in the same place at the same time. Definitely not the kind of sleeping together Tamahiko thought of. She would rather that they sleep in separate futons as her cherry hasn't been popped yet, and she's never been in love. It will have to wait until they get married. Nevertheless, she'll save herself for him. He asks if she would really give herself to a man she doesn't even love, and Yuzuki assures him that she wants to stay by his side, to see all the different sides of him. She wants to love him. The following morning, Yuzuki prepares New Year's dishes for him to try. While he's satisfied from the meal, he ponders what she said about wanting to love him. One day, Tamahiko stumbles upon Yuzuki in the bath. Fortunately for the both of them, her hair is too long and thick that it covers parts of her body. Parts that are only meant to be seen by one spouse. Take note that this is the Taisho era, so chastity and staying pure before marriage is a big thing. He runs away from the bath while blushing hard. After that incident, Yuzuki apologizes to Tamahiko for the accident earlier. He replies that he didn't really see anything, reasoning out that the room was so steamy and he's nearsighted. She feels relieved upon hearing this. While the two are having their breakfast together, she notices rice stuck on his face. She gets it for him, and he's flustered by this. Then he reminds himself that he's a pessimist who hates all the world has to offer. He cannot be shaken off by something as trivial as this. Suddenly, a delivery for Tamahiko arrives. The pair receives the delivery together and sees that it's a letter from his father. According to him, his siblings have already received marriage proposals, and if their potential partners were to learn that they have a brother who lost the use of his right hand, stopped attending school, and is now staying in the mountains, it would be bad for the family name. So for the sake of his siblings, his father elected to tell others that he died in an accident instead. Tamahiko could not believe what he had just read. He survived the accident. His heart beats against his chest, and yet his father killed him. After reading the letter, Tamahiko spends the entire day holed up in his room and insists to Yuzuki that he wants to be left alone. Come next day, he still hasn't left his room. This worries Yuzuki, so she brings him food, only to find out that he has a fever. She gingerly nurses him to health, and soon, Tamahiko wakes up from a dream where his family left him behind. In his despair, he starts saying that he wished he was dead. Just look at the people who will stand to gain from me dying. It's not like anyone cares about me. Following those bitter words is laughter. He's so knee-deep in his misery that the only thing he can do to console himself is to laugh. Tamahiko asks himself how he would achieve this. Hanging? Drowning? Poison? Yuzuki can no longer stomach this, so she lightly slaps his face to snap him back to his senses. "I can't laugh at any of this," she asserts. But Tamahiko only tells her that he has to be laughing for him to be able to say those things. To this, she answers, "If the words are too painful to say without wanting to cry, you mustn't say them. If it hurts to be told such terrible things, why ever would you wound yourself further?" Tamahiko cries. He cries in her arms until he fell asleep. When he wakes up, Yuzuki's in the kitchen, making porridge for him. Noticing the mess he made out of her clothes, he apologizes, but she doesn't seem bothered by this. All of a sudden, he tells her that they should go to Tokyo together. She agrees, and when they arrive, Yuzuki can't help but admire everything about the capital. Everyone seems so chic, and the buildings are so pretty. They go to a mall to shop for a new kimono for her to wear. He felt guilty about ruining her only good kimono, so he buys her new ones. Yuzuki's grateful, saying that she's never owned such fine fabric. Still, he apologizes as what he did can't be undone, before asking if the kimono has any sentimental meaning to her. She recalls that it was the first one she had sewn. making him feel even guiltier. She assures him that it's okay, since the fabrics he bought for her are all she could think about now. One day, it will be the first kimono her lover ever bought her, then the first her husband ever bought her. It will be precious to her all throughout her life. She even adds that maybe she'll be giving it to her daughter or granddaughter one day. Tamahiko blushes as he hears this. He wonders how she could say something so embarrassing. After buying the fabric for the kimono, they stroll around the mall, enjoying their time. Yuzuki finds an escalator, which he's never ridden before, and becomes so curious about it. The two passes by an ice cream shop, and she really can't leave without having an ice cream. He accompanies her inside. She tells him it's delicious and begins to feed him with her spoon, asking him to open his mouth. But two older women at the table next to theirs sees this and comments that they're being positively vulgar. Ugh, kids these days, right? Tamahiko glances in the direction of a young boy eating with his family and remembers the horrors his own dad has brought to him. Yuzuki notices this and tries to distract him from his intrusive thoughts, saying that the ice cream was really delicious. She tells him that they should get going or else they might miss their train. On the train ride home, she confides in him, telling him that when she left her parents, she told them to think of her as being dead. They would never meet again, as if death had parted them. But she would be out there living in happiness elsewhere. Being a pessimist, he comments that it's an impressive thought process, and she tells him that it's easier on you mentally when you think positively. As Yuzuki sleeps on Tamahiko's shoulder, she thinks to herself that she will always be by his side. After that, Yuzuki's been working on her kimono in every spare moment that she has. 1 month later, she finally finishes it. But on that very same day, a new wave of problems fall upon Tamahiko. His younger sister, Shima Tamako, arrives, saying that she came there to enjoy the family villa. He is clearly uncomfortable with seeing her. After all, who wouldn't be? His sister treats him as if he was dead, as if he's not family. The Shimas are simply cruel. Tamako approaches Yuzuki, correctly assuming that she must be her older brother's betrothed. She pats her head affectionately, asking her what year of primary school she is in. Though she's shocked to be mistaken for a primary schooler, Yuzuki maintains a dignified composure as she answers that she is a fine, upstanding adult woman of 14. Tamako's surprised to learn this and teases Yuzuki a bit, spurring Tamahiko to tell her to respect Yuzuki since she's older than her. Tamako's only 12 years old, but she's a lot taller and more mature looking than her. After that, Yuzuki shows Tamako her room, but she doesn't like it, saying that it's too small. She chooses a room near the garden, where the view of nature surrounding the villa is great. Yuzuki personally sets the room for her, arranging her things and airing out the futons to be used. She even prepared some refreshments to enjoy. Tamako is in awe of her all-around capabilities. While preparing dinner, Tamahiko confides in Yuzuki, telling her that Tamako is not that easy to handle. Even so, she tells him that she wants to be friends with his little sister. Tamako suddenly arrives, and Yuzuki invites her to dinner. Tamako, however, tells her to stop with such childish antics, leaving the well-meaning girl disheartened. What's her problem? Tamahiko confronts his sister and asks her why exactly she was there, since to their family, he's already dead. This amuses Tamako, who tells him that it's so entertaining to watch her siblings ham up their acting for their marriage proposals. They were saying things like, "Oh, if only it was me who died in Tamahiko's stead." She even adds that their father wiped away a tear. Hearing this hurts Tamahiko, and the siblings ask to dine in their respective rooms. Tamako walks away, and when she's by herself, she thinks about how Tamahiko hates her. She knows that much. Her strained smile fades. The next morning, Tamahiko is in one of his depressive moods again and doesn't want to eat. Yuzuki invites him out for a walk, saying that there's something she'd like to show him. He reluctantly agrees, with Tamako catching a glimpse of both of them on their way out. Yuzuki leads Tamahiko deep into the forest just close to the villa. He's been staying at the villa for months now, and he had no idea such a place near his home existed. Finally, they reach a big old tree with a hollow opening. Inside it is a guardian deity, perhaps the protector of that forest. Just a few minutes away from the grand tree is a spring. Yuzuki drinks from it and comments that the water is cool and refreshing. She urges Tamahiko to drink from her hands, and he agrees despite his reservations. With the two of them sharing such an intimate and idyllic moment, they can't help but feel flustered. They then return to the villa after. Later in the day, Tamako's hanging around the kitchen, while Yuzuki's making milk caramels. Tamako asks what she's making and grows surprised to learn that she can make it from scratch. Yuzuki comments that they're really siblings, since Tamahiko too would occasionally stand behind her and ask what she's making. Tamako says that she's surprised Yuzuki would do all of that for someone else. After all, she's just sent there to cover a debt. Yuzuki replies that she doesn't hate having to do it. When she thinks she'd like to do something for Tamahiko, her body moves on its own, making Tamako remark that she's strange. After the milk caramel has been made, Yuzuki gives them to Tamahiko, saying that he can eat them while reading a book. She gives him one to taste, and he replies that it has a warm taste. Tamako, for some reason, is pissed off at this, saying that it's just a wad of sugar. She takes the one handed by Yuzuki and throws it to the floor before running out of the room and calling the two idiots. Seriously, what's her problem? Oh wait, she's 12 years old. Right. Later that night, the weather is particularly bad with rain, thunder, and lightning. At her young age, Tamako's still afraid of thunder, so she can't sleep. And she asks Yuzuki to take her to the toilet. And while on the way to the bathroom, a powerful thunder startles Tamako, making her wet herself. Yuzuki notices this but doesn't comment on it. Instead, she takes her to the bath and cleans her. After helping her bathe, they sleep together in the same room. As the two are having a deep conversation, Yuzuki tells her that she may call her Big Sister, which makes Tamako happy. Another strong thunder comes, and Tamako hides and finds comfort in Yuzuki's arms. She sings a song to calm her down. The next morning, Tamahiko is surprised to see Yuzuki and Tamako making almond macarons together. She's also calling her Big Sis Yuzu now. He can't help but scratch his head and wonder what could have happened that night before. But either way, things seem peaceful now that the two girls are getting along well. As for Tamahiko, it looks like he has to fight for Yuzuki's attention from now on. You know, life's a funny thing. It's in Tamahiko's alienation that he found someone who cherishes him, who's doing everything she can to make him feel less lonely. Someone who is clearly happy that he's alive. Perhaps, in time, Tamahiko will be happy for his life too, especially since it's one that he can share with Yuzuki.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.